is Anand Sharma from CXOTV.news, a flagship brand under the umbrella of Tech Plus Media. A warm hello and welcome to everybody. This is the second webinar of the series titled Marketing Mondays from Tech Plus Media. Friends, marketeers generally face a dilemma whether to focus on customer retention or customer acquisition. And that happens to be today's topic of discussion as well, wherein we plan to learn from the panelists as to how this should be focused on and addressed. With this, I open the webinar discussion by thanking each one of you once again for joining and by introducing our panelists. We have on board today Mr. Puneet Mohan. Puneet is a strategy, marketing and sales leader with 3 decades of experience in driving growth of organizations both organically and inorganically, through market expansion, operational excellence, and strategic alliance development, leading to rapid revenue growth, profitability, and market share. Puneet is an engineer from BITS and has worked with the likes of Nestle, Avaya, First Source on leadership positions. Welcome, Puneet, once again. Our second panelist is Mr. Vaibhav Dongre, an entrepreneur, marketeer, and storyteller, presently serving as Global Head of Marketing and Head of Sales for ASEAN countries at Tata Communications Transformation Services. Vaibhav has a career spanning 20 plus years of global techno-commercial experience in marketing, operations, sales and business development across startups, commodities, technology and services businesses, with companies like Tata's, Tech Mahindra, Patni Computers, to name a few. Vaibhav is an alum of IIM Calcutta. Thank you, Vaibhav, for joining, and we look forward to our interaction. Our third panelist is Mr. Dharmendra Gupta, who is the head of marketing at Brai Air Asia. He is listed among top 100 marketing technologists by World Marketing Congress and CMO Asia, listed in top 100 digital marketeers of 2018 by Adobe Digi 100. Dharmendra won the Best Video Viral Marketing Campaign on YouTube in the High-Tech Industrial Manufacturing segment by UBS's Future of Marketing Forum. He is a passionate digital marketeer and marketing technologist and pursued his education at ICFI and SP Jain. Let's welcome Dharmendra and initiate the discussion. So Puneet, let me start with you, and I would circle this question back to all the panelists. What should be the marketing focus in current times? Over to you, Puneet.
Airline. So how do you give a customer a holiday experience without him walking into a shopping, into a shop, right? How do you make the whole experience touchless? Because touch has become, the new abnormal, if I would say so, right? So I think focus on wallet share retention, as much of offline to digital that you can do possible. And I'll give an example of retail subsequently in one of the questions which is going to come up, and try to extract best bang for the buck, right? Ensure that whatever you're spending is targeted correctly. No point in, reaching out to the whole world. It's never worked, and now it will never work in any case, right? Because that's going to happen. So that's my 2 bit on what we should be doing. It's been done before, and I think people will be more conscious now, considering what has happened and what's in store for the near future, at least for a couple of quarters.
Sure, Puneet. Vaibhav, what is your take as to in this current timing, what the marketeers should be focusing on?
So, good afternoon, Anand, and to the entire audience, and to my fellow panelists as well. I think COVID-19 has presented to the world a shocking evidence of what can go wrong. And in these unprecedented times, it's too early to jump to any conclusions in terms of or forming marketing strategies. I think marketeers globally have reacted and acted on what was in their control. But what I've seen in the past 90 days of our experience since the COVID-19 cases have been announced and the lockdown came around in various countries, So there were, if you look at the services that were out there, the channels really changed drastically. Lockdowns has put a lot of limitations on our traditional ways of doing things. And so if you see carefully now, my observation is that within last 90 to 100 days, I think organizations which were already on the path of digital, already had digital in their part of their strategy, were very quick to move on to the digital and ensure that the customers could be retained and the essential services could still be delivered. For example, I work with a company which essentially, the Tata Communications, which is the parent organization to my company, uh, runs, the global internet traffic. If you look at 30% of the world's internet traffic runs on our routes at any given time. So that's a huge responsibility, right? So that's we part of the essential backbone, if you like, to keep the internet going. And then in countries like India and several places, we run emergency services, and we also run large network telecommunications network for several operators around the world. So getting the essential services. We thought this was a great time for us to, and as Tata Group, I mean, we obviously thrust so much on the trust and business with trust. So trust is an essential central idea to us doing business. But I think looking at across the sectors, I think marketeers should look at gaining that trust through continued services, and if required, even some companies have gone to the levels of making masks, making ventilator equipments, and branded companies like 3M and so on and so forth, right? So, so companies have shown the flexibility to move to providing essential services, whether even if those were not their regular businesses. So what does that indicate? I mean, I think marketers around the world are trying to portray and communicate that trust to their existing customers. So basically that goes a lot to say in terms of customer retention. And I think it's a great opportunity for marketeers to, while showcasing and ensuring this trust to their existing customers, they are actually creating success stories to take to their new customers, and then extend that trust into the customer acquisition part of, or the demand generation side of things. I think that's Puneet rightly mentioned, budgets will go down. A lot of budget movement will happen from brick and mortar to digital, and that was anyways that bandwagon was coming, right? So digital transformation was en route. I think COVID has only accelerated that, and it's a great learning experience for marketeers to see how they can manage with less and have more impact. But this is by far, I would say this is not. This will continue to be. COVID-19 has taught us a lot of lessons, and these will continue to impact our industries, and especially our domain as a marketing domain in a big way across for many years to come.
So when you say trust, if I understand correctly, it's like gaining the trust of customer, your employees, the entire stakeholder chain, right?
Yeah, yeah, and including partners, yes.
Including partners, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. What should be the take of marketeers during this time? What should be the focus?
As Puneet and Raghav has stated that retention is one of the most important thing right now, because retention is something which is 6 to 7 times cheaper than acquisition. So marketer has to focus on retention. But on the contrary, what we have seen that 44% of companies focus more on acquisition rather than on retention. Only 18% of companies has actually spent on retention. So post Corona time, the competition for new customer will get very, very intense, because there will be only few customers in the market, and there will be, if companies still adopt the same thing, then what will happen is the competition is going to be even more intense than earlier. So it is very, very important that to focus on retention, how to engage the existing customer, how to get them, as Puneet has rightly said, how to get the better wallet share from the existing customer. So I've seen that so many companies they talk about digital transformation. In fact, in my mind, that it is, if you look at the customer itself, the customer has already transformed their lives. In what way they have transformed their life? If you can look at the customer life, let's say area of procurement, they are already procuring it through online shopping like Amazon, Flipkart. If we talk about talent acquisition, they are already talking uh, going marketplaces, Naukri, Indeed, this and that. If we talk about collaboration, they are already doing it on social media. If you're talking about market research, they're already using G Crowd and various other social, peer reviews platforms. If you talk about finance, they've already gone to Paytm, Google Pay, Beam, etc. If you talk about travel, they have gone to Ola, Uber, OYO Rooms. So if you talk about any aspect of the individual customer, they have already gone digital. It is the companies which are lagging. So they had to, after this post-corona period, they had to really latch on the digital bandwagon. Otherwise, there's no hope. Because there are budget cuts. As Puneet has said, there will be drastic budget cuts. And traditional media is very, very costly. If you talk about print media, you talk about technical journal, you talk about events, you talk about any media, they are very costly. And after this post-corona, they are going to be even costlier, because lesser number of participants and the costs are going to be almost same organizing. So the companies has to go digital. So digital marketing is the solution going forward, and they have to focus on customer retention. And for customer retention, I think one of the big areas that they need to focus on is how they can leverage the existing data that they have. Whether it is from the marketing perspective, I will tell lots of people visit your website, but how are you leveraging that data? Are you just seeing Google Analytics data and not using it? So you have to see strategies that how you can leverage that data, leverage that understanding from the website visitors, and how you can target them. So because they are already known to your brand, so how you can use that. So that's the way they should go forward.
Very valid point brought forward, Dhamendra, wherein I think data is the new oil will become all the more important and relevant now, right? At the same point of time, I think you rightly pointed out that companies which had a digital strategy are going to have some leeway, some gain in the days to come, right? As compared to those who are yet to start their digital journey. Vaibhav, a question for you. When we talk about customer retention versus customer acquisition, are these mutually exclusive, or do you see them as complementary? And perhaps before we get into these strategies, do we need different strategies for customer retention versus acquisition, right? And you can utilize your sales experience to elaborate on this, Vaibhav.
Yeah, sure. So in my view, customer acquisition and retention both are, while two different things, and will require different tactics and different strategies. They are, pieces of the same puzzle. And, you can't, if there is no customer, then you don't have a customer retention problem, right? And if you're facing a lot of customer retention problem, maybe you have a lot of customers who are possibly not happy and you're losing them, right? And pointing to, again, what Puneet said, increase your share of wallet and things like that. But, more importantly, I think today's time, especially in the COVID-19 and more digital kind of situations that we are pushed into, I think both customer acquisition and retention have become more closely dependent on each other, and can be tied to each other depending on how you strategize. One strategy, for example, like I said in the opening statement, that the trust that you gain. For example, lately, because we do the essential services, we were also a lot of our customers, when we went back and asked them, saying, are the SLAs being met and things like that. I mean, obviously from the dashboards, we know that we're doing way beyond our normal SLAs as well. So customers came back with a much more overwhelming response and the satisfaction statement, which in normal times would have been, oh yeah, I mean, so you're meeting the SLAs, which is part of the contract, and what's the big deal, right? So, but in current given situation where we call, our service assurance pieces and the service delivery excellence, those are showing, helping us overwhelm the customer, take that satisfaction levels to a very different level. And these are the success stories which I want to use to take them back to my people, I mean, the customers who are yet to be my customers, I mean, target audiences who are possibly sitting on the fence, not yet signed up with me, but are evaluating my propositions and things like that. Back to the traditional routes, actually, in even in the digital times, I would say, the word of mouth, happy customers in your services, customer retention bucket, you could run a lot of, loyalty programs and things like that. But at the end of the day, a happy customer, it's like your happy customer will always propagate your success, and the word of mouth is very helpful. And my view is that in the digital world, it gets all the more amplified and very rapidly. So marketers should keep a sharp eye on leveraging the digital technologies and the tools, both in terms of analytics and even in terms of outreach. But be very careful in terms of, while you're strategizing, be careful in picking up the right stories, and because the stories have legs, and in the digital world, they not only have legs, they run much faster, and they're about to surprise you. And this also, you should remember that this applies for the bad stories out there also, right? So the disrespect that comes from the digital channels is again very amplified and can be very rapid. It can be very rapidly coming back to you. So you don't have a choice. I think service excellence, the product delivery, whatever you have committed to as a part of your product or services, has to be delivered. And that has not changed. Pretty much the traditional rules of the game are not changing. Only it will be that you will use, and people had already started using a lot of digital in their outreach and things like that. I would also bring one more point here, is that customer engagement will become all the more important now, because the way you emotionally are able to connect to the customer will provide a sort of a glue, which will give you a much longer, in the longer haul, it will give you a much better profitability and success.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think the digital signature of companies, when I say digital signature of companies, I mean brands, I mean products, and what does the social media talk about it? All these become very important all the more now, right? Dharmendra, would you want to add more to this as to how does the focus change on customer retention versus acquisition in this perspective?
The channels of customer acquisition and channels of customer retentions are totally different. They complement each other, but the point is that you cannot use the same strategies for customer retention as for the customer acquisition. So if you talk about the customer acquisition channel, then the biggest channel that I see is the Google ad campaign, the search engine marketing, the social media marketing, and the other channels like website retargeting, website remarketing. Website itself is a big channel, and but the point is, and if you talk about the customer retention channel, then customer retention channels in the marketing term is still the email, but it looks very, very kind of very subliminal level, that how email could be a retention channel or retention. See, once a customer is already in your lap, and this customer has already experienced your service, apart from the customer service that you really need to give, but let's say he is also satisfied with the customer service, and he is probably for the first 1 year, 2 year, he may not be even requiring your customer service because of the product is new. then what you should do for the retention? You need to keep in touch with this customer. You need to keep informing about the new development that's happening in the space. How can you use the product better? How can you get more mileage out of the your existing product? How can you where you should go and what best practices you should follow? So you need to see around the customer space, that how the customer who is not even reaching you, how can you engage that? So you need to find out the ways and means to touch base with that, whether it is social media, whether it is email marketing, whether it is telephone calling or any other thing. The retention is in the engagement. And how do you build that engagement? So you have to focus on engagement. That is the strategy that I can suggest.
No, I think that's true. It's as Weber was also mentioning, it's more of a customer engagement that is going to take center role, right? Moving on to my next topic or next question, Puneet, this is addressing to you. What marketing strategies you feel that we should focus on specifically for customer retention for this time?
Very good pointers in the last couple of minutes from both Weber and Dharmendra. So I'll just take two examples to address this. One is a typical B2B example, right? So there are large B2B is predominantly been very prone to outsourcing, whether it is a manufacturing company subcontracting manufacturing or it's a bank doing service outsourcing, right? With with the new paradigm coming in, with work from home becoming more and more important, and with distancing norms coming in place in a physical workplace, whether it's a factory or it's a call center, I think the messaging and the customer engagement that marketing needs to do again with their existing customers is, okay, you had given me a 10 million contract to manage SLA, service assurance, and I'm taking a service industry example. Same extrapolates to marketing outsourcing, manufacturing outsourcing also. How do you go back to him? And digital is a word which has been often misunderstood, right? Doing a chatbot is not digital, right? So you need to go back to them that how can you automate the QA function? There are agents who are working from home, right? How do you automate the QA function, which on the shop floor was happening? And tell him, sir, you had a 10 million contract. I'm going to do this automation with my agents working from home, right? X% agents working from home. And I will deliver the same service levels, the same end customer experience to your end customers. I think that's going to be a major play, right? So as much of automation as possible. So it's literally transforming the organization digitally, right? Not by just placing a couple of bots. The bot doesn't understand who is coming, right? Whether I'm a high value customer or a low value customer, the bot will say, hello, please tell me your query. You type a query, standard answer comes out. That's not the way it's going to work.
Absolutely.
So that's one in a B2B scenario. Let me come to a B2C scenario, and this happens to be my favorite, always, is how will retail happen? How will restaurants function? And let me just take a very simple example of retail. And by the way, there's one company in the world which has taken this, 40 days off. And I'm naming the company, it's Levi Strauss, the famous jeans maker. They are getting all their store associates trained on web as to how to handle the new normal of shopping. So trial rooms are going to go away, right? Nobody in a sane mind who goes out to buy an attire will, buy something that's going to be available for trial. You can have only so many people in the shop, right? So what do you do? And I come back to the first thing which I said, 80-20. Spend 80% of the money in retaining your wallet share, right? People have huge amount of customer history, right? Shopping preferences or so. Now is the time to apply analytics. And when they say data is the new oil, the concept of performance marketing and premium reachability, what comes into play now, which is, if I've been and I'll just take Levi's because I've quoted that as a company which is trying to transform itself. So you go back to a person who's been your shopper. You know what kind of styles he buy. Send him an e-catalog and tell him, weekend is coming up. Would you like to schedule an appointment for us? You know that this guy has bought you. You're trying to win his heart by telling him, when you come to the shop, we will ensure you don't have to stand outside, right? Tell me know what slot you want, so that in your store at that point, you allow only that many walk-ins. Give him the catalog and tell him that, again, the second thing that's going to be very problematic is people will not like to touch too many things, right? So if I get a catalog and I say, okay, I'm interested in these 6 things, and I'm going to come at 1 p.m. on Saturday. When I go there, those 6 styles are laid out somewhere. I have a look and I tell them, okay, this is what I want to buy. If I don't want to buy, I want to have a look at the store. Sure. Give me that flexibility because I've been a loyal customer of yours, according to your segmentation and so on and so forth. Let him carry it back. Let him try it out at home, right? If he doesn't find it, again, help him schedule a time slot where he comes, maybe looks at something else and returns it back. Okay. I think some of these key things will become very key. So in the service industry, which is, in service outsourcing, large contracts which IT, BPO companies have picked up, I think, how do you deliver same or better SLAs in less, right? With a lot of automation in place. In terms of, B2C, how do you make sure if there is a $1 of marketing with you, you spend it in the way that somebody who's been shopping with you comes to you smiling and goes back smiling. So I think that's my 2 bit on this. And I think some of these points, engagement, how do you do customer engagement, right? Try to make it as much as offline in terms of online and digital. Maybe give him a feel of how the trouser will look on it, right? A story which he can see on Instagram, with a model wearing the new trouser, how it falls and so on and so forth, so that it gives him an idea when he's coming to shop. He says, okay, I want to see these 5 styles, right? And automation in case of whether it is manufacturing or ITA service outsourcing, automation is the key. Shop floor, how will people leverage IoT now? Big question. I think this is the time. IoT is more than a mobile device. It is capturing shop floor production data, transferring it, sending out an alert when it is, because you will not be allowed to have, people monitoring and sitting in control room all over the time. So send out an SMS or a message that, okay, this equipment is going to be a probable dime. So predictive maintenance becomes more important, and IoT will enable that.
Thank you so much, Puneet. I think it was amazing. Rather, you mentioned a lot of use cases, right? As to how we can actually transform or literally transform in the current scenario. So switching my question back to Dharmendra. Dharmendra, anything that you want to add on as to what could be the strategies for customer retention?
As I already told you that what could be the strategies to that engagement is the answer, and the selection of channels that you use, and basically you need to go closer to your best customer, as Puneet was telling you that Levi's customer who is a loyal Levi's customer. So how they have treated him. So you need to find out your best customer, and you need to get closer to them, ask them questions, understand their concerns, understand their pain points, understand what they're going through, and then devising your marketing plan or marketing communications in a way that addresses that larger audience which is feeling or which is going through that concern or which is feeling that pain. So that is one area. So communication is now channels are something which comes later once you have decided what communication that you want to do. So now the best channels at this point of moment is digital channels, because they are safe. People can access them at their home, at their leisure, and they can look at the information whenever they want to. And the thing is that I want to give you one example about how digital channels can be used. search engine marketing has become so smart over the last few years that earlier it was keyword. Everyone was talking about keyword. Then the time came and everyone was started stuffing their website with keyword. Then they started focusing building around keyword. Now the search engine has become so smart that even if the keyword is not there on your page, but then still they can match the page with your query, because if the intent is same, they're able to understand that. Lots of machine learning is in place, even at the Google, so they're able to match that query, uh, even if the keyword is not there, but that page or that information can suffice to that customer. So they understand customer. So they have put in a lot of efforts into understanding customer. If a customer is writing this, then what he may actually meant, or what is the intent of that. And from that intent, they will actually extract the intent of your page and then match it. So these are the times. So you should focus on generating content. You should focus on answering those questions, answering those concerns from your strength. How can you solve that strength and create content around that, whether it is video, whether it is infographic, whether it's a web page, whether it's a case study or whatever you want to create. You create that, and then search engine marketing will basically connect all that customers to you. So this is what I can add.
Oh, that's brilliant. Thank you so much, Dharmendra.
Anand, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah,
One point
please
I
go
just
ahead.
wanted to add with your permission. Right?
Please.
I think, across retention and acquisition, it's always been said, and I think it becomes more important now, is collaboration. How do you collaborate with an ecosystem of partner to deliver an enhanced customer experience and a customer engagement, right? If you take a retailing, for example, I think, how does a bank and a shop collaborate to churn out a good offer to a customer who's either a loyal customer of the bank or a loyal customer of the shop, right? If you go into the, manufacturing outsourcing or service right? How do the big people take them along in delivering that automation level with the new work from home, social distancing, new normal paradigm? So I think that multi-party collaboration to deliver a good enhanced customer experience, customer journey is going to be a very key ingredient now.
Let me just flip the question, Puneet, to you only. How do you think it's going to be different when we talk about customer acquisition? So, Dharmendra pointed out very key things about retention. So, for acquisition purpose in current times, how the strategy is going to be different?
Right. So I think I'll just take a minute, take 30 seconds and go back to your first question. Are customer acquisition and retention complementary or mutually exclusive?
Yeah.
I think they have always been a mix of both. There is an intersection between acquisition strategy and retention strategy. And this is my personal experiential learning. I'm not, quoting from a textbook, but this is, so I think when you go into acquisition, right? And let me take a minute to explain it from a use case, right? So I think there's going to be a lot of vendor consolidation, and I'm talking about B2B as of now, right?
Of course.
Because business is going to go down, right? So you will only subcontract outsource what your business demands, right? Now, and typically companies, that's what has happened in the past globally, right? When a contract comes up for renewal, they will send the RFP to 5 or 7 companies, right? 3 existing, 4 new, right? The price game is not going to win anybody the deal, because the price game is a given now, right? One of the givens. I think organizations need to decide to pick what battle that you want to fight. For example, if I'm an IT company, right, and I'm very strong in the banking sector, right, and I'm invited for an RFP for a bank who is not my customer, that is a battle I should pick and fight. But if I have, let's say, one small customer in life sciences, right, and if Pfizer says I want to do a drug, my contract renewal, it's pointless for me to waste and spend marketing money and marketing strategy around winning that customer. It's nobody in this kind of a era will give any weight to somebody who's coming in with a one customer up his sleeve. When you go to the B2C part of it, and again I'll go back to the example which I gave a couple of minutes back. You basically need to get into the socio-economic profile of a person and then decide how to spend your marketing dollar. And let me give you an example. So there is Louis Vuitton, right? There is HDFC Bank. Just taking random names, right? I mean, no allegiance to any of these brands per se. So a couple of months back, I'm sure every Tom, Dick and Harry would be getting an SMS from Louis Vuitton, right? Is it worth spending that money? If you ask me, absolutely no. But if you collaborate with HDFC Bank and find out the socio-economic profile of an individual who's banking with, let's say, HDFC or who's got an HDFC card, and then reach out to him in a customized way, the propensity of him becoming your customer is far better, right? And this is, Anand, I think you're on mute. And this is across the brand spectrum, whether it's a low-end brand, mid-segment. So how Food Bazaar engages and how Louis Vuitton engages, it's the same. How do you go after people? This is their socio-economic profile, which is what I call performance marketing and premium reachability, right? You make sure you spend the money rightly and you reach the right person with the right offer. And this can happen only through collaboration, right? And data is the new oil, but shared data is the real new oil, if you ask me.
Too good, Puneet. Thank you so much. Thanks to you and Dharmendra for putting it well so together. And I can, while you were talking, I was drawing a lot of inferences as to what can be possible use cases. A virtual reality kiosk perhaps an app which tells me as to how this particular apparel will fit me.
But there are already developments for sizes like your waist size, your chest size, and your all other height and weight and everything. And you feed into the system, then the mannequin, the digital mannequin will come, and then you can try whatever you want to try on that.
I think now we'll be forced to use these, VRs and ARs of the day, right? All right. Moving on to the last topic and quite interesting one, Dharmendra, that's for you. And that's quite similar to what we were discussing as to how do you think that the AI interventions or analytics, though we have touched upon them, scratched the surface a little bit, how these are going to, change the market now? And in the current scenario, can you share some more details as to what can be more useful for this? So we have already discussed that. Yeah.
See, AI field, a lot of work is going on. In fact, some of the work which was earlier supposed to come in another 1 or 2 years, now they will come in another 6 months. Google is doing a lot of work in AI, and I've seen so many companies doing related. Even now, you have you see the video production will take more prominence. That people will be using a lot of YouTube. Now that if you are using a lot of YouTube, then you need a lot of production facilities and production softwares and tools. For production software and tools, I can suggest that there are readers. You just type the text, and you can get the text spoken into multiple languages, into multiple voices, Asian voices, female voices, male voices, this voices, heavy voices, pitch, changing pitch and that. You can create any kind of digital version of that voice, and they look 99% similar to what a real person is saying. So they can be used as the background voice for the music. There are several tools which are available like 2D animation, 3D animation, Toons, Doodle, and those kind of tools which can do the animation, the picture animation, or even the line diagram animation and all that kind of animation. That will help to basically for the video production. Then there are AI tools which actually tell you that what kind of graphic element you should use on your creative, and whether the element that you have already chosen in your creative, whether that creative will help you give more CTR in your display campaign or not. Even those kind of services, I think Data Sign is one company which is doing that, which you can Google it and you can find it out that if you want to check out your creative, that what how much it is going to success, or what is the area where you need to make the improvement, they can give you inputs from the AI point of view, and they will learn as with your industry also. So they are they're already there. Then Google Vision is also there. They are also, they can read an image in such a way that they can tell you that what is the mood of a person, whether it is a happy person, whether it is a person who is in sad position, whether it is a confident person or like that. So a lot of work is going on. Then on the AI front, I see many other things which I'm not able to recall it at this moment. And particularly on the Google side, I have seen so many the examples which I have given. That is also an AI example. The earlier example that they are able to understand the intent of a question without having that particular phrase in that question. That is also an example of AI. So I think these are the examples which are coming right into my mind right now.
That's very relevant. Vaibhav, do you want to add something to it? What Dharmendra shared with us?
No, I think I would agree with Dharmendra. See, one thing, very important thing to remember for marketeers is that online is a very crowded space. Okay, and very distractive also. So with all these ad inserts and there are 20 other companies wanting to take away your customer or take you away from a particular website and things like that. So online and this slightly, I mean, B2C is more then and there kind of because the purchase happens online and the delivery happens. In case of B2B, a lot will go into, but still in both cases, I think there are a lot of micro segments out there, and you will need sophisticated tools like Dharmendra mentioned, that there is a lot of work going on. I don't want to call out any specific tools, but based on the requirements, there are several tools out there which marketers should take help from. But and it is humanly impossible to track so many dimensions of an online campaign, right? So it's important to utilize take support of the right tools, and also look for, but again, going back to some of the traditional routes, your dashboarding, the business bottom line and customer acquisition portions are not changing, right? So look at the dashboard, look at what is important, make sure that you have the right tools to help you navigate in that direction to get the right results. Don't forget that online is a very crowded space. It gets all the more competitive because there are other tools and technologies working in the for your competitors, if you like, and the same data which you are considering is also there's no competitive edge that you have potentially, because they are using similar tools, similar data sources and things like that, right? So but look at the micro segments. I think carving out, and another important aspect which I think we missed out on is online will then see, it's all about the personas that you have to create. Marketers have to focus or go back to the basics of doing the right messaging for first of all identifying those micro segments, doing the right messaging, identifying what is the potential for upsell, cross sell and things like that, likes and dislikes and all these so the personas have to be built, and even the brand personas have to be built out there. Those are very important, and those will be very crucial and instrumental in getting you the right getting you to the right levels of retention and also acquisition.
One will have to be very careful from a marketing perspective, where to draw the line between persona hyper personalization, where it tends to become invasive to an individual, right? If I were to relate it to a shop experience, going back to, or a call center experience, uh, a person can always say sorry for a rude behavior, right? When I'm in the store, and you can make out from my face I've got offended, and you say, sorry sir, I didn't mean to do that. In online, you don't have that luxury, right? So I think that's one thing I wanted to point out, that while technology is all very good, and I know that there is no way forward except being digital, transforming digitally, but with a little bit of caution in terms of where to draw the line between personalized persona vis-a-vis being invasive.
Very, very valid point. Very valid point. And I think sentiment analysis, or whether you call customer engagement, all these need to be very much sensitive areas going forward. As a marketing person from service industry in the B2B sector, which sector do you feel that we need to target for the next 6 months or 1 year?
One for sure is pharmaceutical and life sciences and healthcare.
I was about to say healthcare could be a very promising one, but it could be a short-lived trigger as well, Puneet.
Yeah.
So
I'm just talking near term, but just to answer that question.
Very generic question itself. I'm not able to figure out what.
I mean, if I were to give an answer to that, Anand, I think I'll again go back to that. For the next couple of months, couple of quarters till, there's something more than light at the end of the tunnel. Try to do what you're doing best and try to hold on to what you have. Time to be too over ambitious. While I'm not saying that it should be zero, right? But
cautious.
Try to be cautious. Try to be very cautious about it.
I think Absolutely. One very important sector that did not get the mention is about the food processing industry. Food processing industry is something which is really going to be not much affected by, and in fact, entire food industry and related industry like ancillary industries like cold chain industries. Now, because of this situation, COVID situation, people have realized the importance of having a cold storage. And cold storage chain, logistic chain, like having a cold chain truck supplying the material which can perish over a period of time. See, during this time, whether while the government was distributing the food, but still a lot of food is there which is on the field which could not reach market, and they could have been saved from perishing if we would have the good cold storages, a network of cold storage all across India. I do not know what is the figure right now, but I am very sure about that. Thousands of tons of food must have perished just because they could not reach the markets. So food processing is something which is going to get a big boost. Cold chain within that, and all the ancillary industries which is supporting the food processing industry is going to be just like the healthcare, hospital, and the equipment that the laboratory equipment, which are, because again they are the ancillary to that. Testing, whether it is food testing, whether it is pharmaceutical testing, R&D laboratories, or anything that is supporting the hospital. Like in the hospital, you need a lot of infrastructure related to beds. So even the fabrication companies which are supplying the fabricated beds or any other equipment, they will also be getting business, because lots of investment is going to come in healthcare. So likewise, you have to see your industry, that how your industry supplies or that connected to these sunrise industries like pharmaceutical, food processing, healthcare, cold storage, and some other. Even you need to store electronic equipment. You need to have you need to store a lot of things. Storage, not just the cold storage. Storage is also going to get more importance.
Absolutely. Next question from the audience is, what do you see would be the role of UX or UI designing to deliver enhanced customer experience? We all can say univocally that yes, the role will be an increased role.
Can do, as I told you in the beginning, that you need to understand, you need to leverage the data through the analytics. Now, a lot of people have website, but they are not able to use the website data. Are you in a position to target all the people who have visited your website 3 times in the past, but they have never converted? Can you identify and retarget them? I think 90% of the people will not be able to answer this question, how to do that. But there is a possibility. Now, whether you have 10 different products on your website, can you identify all the people who have visited your product number 3 and target them with the product number 3 only? 90% of people will not be able to do that. So it is already there. You have to just pay attention to that part and use that data, because it is almost like they are still not customer, but they're in the prospective list. They are next best category customers, because they already know your brand and you can target them. So try to use all these techniques which are already available. And as Weber has pointed out, micro segmentation. So what is micro segmentation? Micro segmentation is this only. That how do you segment the data? How do you segment all the people who are the prospects in your list, whether it is digital list or whether any other list? How do you micro segment that so that you can communicate only to a limited set of customers and the relevant communication only? So that is one thing.
We'll take just one more question, one last question from the audience. And Puneet, if you would like to answer that. So this says that companies might be cutting the marketing budget by this gentleman, Chandra Gupta, assumes by 50% or more, perhaps. Okay. So what do you suggest would be a marketing plan for an FMCG company? How is it going to be different?
So FMCG also, I think slightly broad canvas, but I think if I were to sort of say it in a very few words, analytics will have a big role. And I think what Weber and Dharmendra just said, so you go after segments typically in an FMCG. I think you need to sort of plan how to do micro segmenting and see where to go. And I think demographics, geographics, and social economic profile will play a major role how you spend the money. So if you wanted to invest in a chocolate, marketing of a chocolate, I think you'll have to put in a lot more parameters. So, and your 100 rupee budget, which has now become 50, how do you spend that 50 to effectively ensure that the chocolate gets sold and targeted at the right profile of customers or segment of customers? So I think segmenting, micro segmenting is where you will get ROI. Sorry, Weber.
Puneet, well said. I think one more important point I would like to give a simple message to all marketers is, for example, look at this example of if the marketing budget in FMCG for a particular service line or a product line is being cut by 50%, the management is basically telling you to be smarter with your marketing dollars, right? So obviously you will have to use it wisely to make sure that every campaign that goes out there is targeted to the right segment. It is well researched. I think the overall spend, that's why in the earlier discussion we said take help of the tools and technology available to make sure that there is the right segments identified, and it cannot be a spray and pray anymore. It never was effective, and now it will get all the more difficult for marketers because the budgets are going to be not there. So obviously marketers will have to get smarter ahead of the curve and well educated about tools and technology updates out there.
Very well said, Vaibhav, and thank you so much, Puneet. It has been an interesting discussion, and I wish we had planned for longer, but perhaps we might need to schedule another session because it was getting very interesting, very learning, informative for me. We all know these are tough times and survival of the fittest will once again be witnessed. Our zeal of learning is a testimony that we plan to survive. And I repeat, we plan to survive. Or perhaps we plan to grow. On this positive note and wishes for each one of you, I am closing this interesting discussion by once again thanking the panelists and the participants. You can view the webinar recordings later as well and share with others on www.cxotv.news. And stay tuned for our next Monday webinar series, under the series Marketing Mondays. Friends, wish you all a great day and week ahead. Happy Ramzan. Please stay indoors, stay safe. Cheers.
For more updates from CXO TV, please like and subscribe to our channel.